Welcome to Koala Gardens. I'm Katrina, and we are going to have a really good talk about the way koalas communicate, because it's pretty fascinating, and this is premiering live on YouTube, and it's brought to you by my alpha producers, Jeff Anderson, Rich in Alaska, Lynn, Sean and William Harada, and your name could be here too if you would like to join at that level. But if you check the links in the description below, there's loads of different Patreon levels and other ways you can support me here, which makes all the difference in my world. And don't forget, if you're coming to the far north coast of New South Wales, make sure you book and do a Walk on the Wild Side koala tour with me. And I want to acknowledge the Widjabul Waiable people of the Bundjalung Nation, on whose land I am so proud to live, work and play. Okay, koala communication. Thanks to my amazing Discord community for asking all of these you-beaut questions about how koalas communicate with each other. It's taken me a long time to put together, but here we go. The first question I want to address is, if young koalas accidentally meet in the same tree, how would they communicate? It's unlikely that they would meet accidentally. Koalas can smell each other. However, a young koala may be inexperienced and not realise until they are a little bit close. I have only seen young koalas encountering each other in the same tree once in the past 12 years. The most common reaction that I have seen is that they will cautiously approach and smell each other, going nose to nose. This is often done in slow motion because it is highly risky behaviour. A swipe of the claw at a koala's face could have terrible consequences. Once they have established some smelling of each other, they are most likely to then simply move apart. If they stay in the same large tree, they will be most likely to move to very separate branches. If the tree is not large, one would be expected to exit the tree. If they are older juveniles and are both males, this could escalate into some fighting or aggressive behaviour. It's a great way to learn a lot, as fighting each other as peers is safer than attempting to fight with a large, experienced male. How do females communicate with each other? Do they fight? This is a great question. Female koalas communicate mostly by urine marking. They rarely make noises, except some sounds towards their young, which are usually very quiet and are rarely heard by anybody else. Sometimes they will use noises in an attempt to de-escalate an approach by a male. They don't engage in hierarchy altercations the way males do. If starving, if there's so little habitat, they could defend food sources. But generally, we don't associate competitive behaviour with the girls. They exhibit the same kind of solitary behaviours, but will tolerate other females or young males nearby, even in the same tree if the habitat is low. If approached directly, they will engage in warning sounds and postures that are described further on to indicate that they are not interested. What other sounds do koalas make besides bellowing? Another great question, because koala sounds, except for bellowing, follow quite usual patterns that can often be easily interpreted by any species. One of the reasons for this is that some of these sounds could be directed at other species. The sounds described below are designed to elicit a response from another animal. Most of the time, this is another koala they are attempting to get a response from but not always. Yips are a universal baby language. Yip, 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 yip. They are high-pitched, short sounds and usually delivered with some staccato repetition. Not all young mammals call in exactly the same way. And not all young can truly cry. However, all young mammals will use some vocalization to attract the attention of their mother. This is calling rather than crying. Crying is used to express distress, fear, pain. Those kind of sounds have more urgency than simply calling. Calling can escalate, of course. Joeys will call mum with a yipping sound. The younger the joey is, the more likely the mother is to respond by approaching or reaching out to the joey. As Joey develops strength, confidence and independence, Mum will respond less to this call. It is very likely that hormones are involved in lowering Mum's response. For the mother koala, hormones affect the maternal brain to stimulate behavioural responses. These hormones are linked to the production of milk. As Joey begins to eat substantial amounts of leaf and consume less milk from their mum, mum becomes less responsive to Joey calling for her. We have often watched videos of Joeys growing up here at Koala Gardens and seen a mum become indifferent as Joey becomes more independent. This is important for Joey to learn to live alone. When Joey first leaves the pouch, there is a huge amount of dependence on mum. She needs to keep Joey close. She needs to hold Joey tightly and pay attention all the time. Remember, they are up in the treetops. But as Joey develops skills, she needs to let Joey go. It's common to see a Joey in the first days after mum leaves them completely, making those yipping sounds. With no response, they soon give this strategy up, and we don't hear them make those sounds again for the rest of their lives. Squeals or screams are high-pitched sounds and are very important koala sounds. We find them distressing to hear because they are designed to elicit just such a response. The sounds convey fear. Murmurs and clicking sounds are used between mothers and joeys when they're close to each other in the trees. Those sounds are designed to reinforce the bond and are used as a calming signal and are very quiet. Humans rarely hear these sounds from the base of a tree. While they will use some sounds, they primarily use smell to identify each other. Sniffing and hissing sounds indicate extreme discomfort and serve as a warning that physical altercation could soon follow. This is one of those sets of sounds that are universal again. Think of a cat and you immediately know the hisses and how they can make you quickly know you need to back off if you're wise. Sometimes the hisses are combined with growls, and this only serves to make the warning more immediate. What body language do koalas use to communicate? Again, some of the koala body language is very similar across different species. Ear flicking is a sign of koala irritation, and this irritation could just be because of insects, as they can flick their ears like we would wave our hand because their ears are very mobile. If the ear flicking is combined with head tilting or head shaking, it could actually be a sign that there is an ear infection that needs attention. But when talking about communication, ear flicking and head flicking indicates the koala is not happy about something that is happening, and they are giving a warning. Sometimes they will lay their ears back as well and then give them a little flick. This warning is more subtle than the hissing or growling. Some other animals might do the same kind of behaviour but using their tail and be flicking their tail in a similar way. Most animals understand these flicking movements, and if they are just happening nearby, if they have no intent of any harm or intrusion, they will take that signal and move back away. However, if an animal is being territorial, such as it could be a bird who nests in that tree, they will likely ignore that ear flicking or head flicking and continue to give their own warnings of, whatever territory they are wanting to defend. This ear and head flicking can progress if things escalate to hissing, growling, or even screaming. So we're talking about silent body language communication, if not effective enough, can escalate onto the verbal things we talked about. Chin jerking is often seen by koalas when they feel threatened, but the threat is at a distance. It's extremely common to see a koala released into a tree and they climb a few meters, then they stop, turn around, look at the humans below and give a few chin jerks. I've heard many people interpret this as "thank you," but it's more like "you can go away now." Raising the chin is an avoidance behaviour. Animals often use various degrees of eye contact and then looking away and back to signal that they see you, but they want to avoid you. So the chin jerking is a similar strategy, but with the jerking movement, it is plainly saying, I don't want to engage with you at all. Eye contact. Oh, what an interesting communication tool this is. In general, you can say that wild animals see direct eye contact as threatening. Being seen is the first step in possibly being in a dangerous situation. If you are prey, you really could be attacked. If you are a predator, you might lose your prey, or you may be caught in a territorial confrontation. One of the first responses a koala might give when you make direct eye contact with them is to turn their back on you, or try to put something in front of their face. It's like, you can't see me if I can't see you. And sometimes it is literally just a leaf or a thin twig. If they stare at you for a prolonged time, they may actually be very stressed. Figuring out what's going on in any situation needs a full understanding of all of the parts that I talk about in this video and putting each of the parts together. If the koala has wide eyes and goes very still and stiff looking at you, that is like a freeze response. That is an indication the koala is stressed. It can feel to them like if they sit very still and hold eye contact with you, then nothing can escalate and you can't sneak up on them. One of the main responses that we all have to stress is what's called the fight, flight, or freeze response. So quite often when people think, oh, isn't that koala cute, just staring at me, they are actually in that freeze response. This is where watching the ears can be a very helpful indicator of their stress. The combination of things that I talk about here is how we really understand what we're seeing from koala body language. If a koala approaches another koala making direct eye contact, it is likely there will be a lot of visual and auditory cues in the response that they get. Ear positions. We've talked a little bit about those ear flicking, but ear positions normally happen before it might escalate to flicking. There haven't really been any extensive studies on koala body language like there have been for so many domestic animals and even many other wild animals. So we have to draw some of our understanding of what we see happening with koalas from studies that have been done on other animals. If a koala hears something, they will sit a little more erect, their ears will prick up, and the ears may move a little forwards, backwards, and around. And we see that happening with many animals that have mobile ears. Koala ears are highly mobile, so ear movement is an expected response to hearing something. Often, if we see a koala sleeping, their ears will still move at times in response to auditory stimuli. If nothing appears to be concerning, they won't bother opening their eyes or lifting their heads. When the ears are upwards or erect, it's an important indicator of both koala health and of them feeling calm in any given situation. Koalas are curious. They are interested in the environment around them. If a koala hears something that doesn't sound too irregular, they will respond by turning towards it slowly, and their ears will stay erect. If they are concerned, they will often respond by turning their head suddenly and then turning away so that their face becomes hidden. But their ears may still stay erect, or their ears may turn back towards the sound. Sideways movements of the ears is normally a behaviour designed to help facilitate hearing. They may be trying to pinpoint where a sound is coming from more precisely. A koala that keeps moving its ears sideways and forwards may be mildly concerned about something. If it progresses to ear flicking, the agitation or the alarm is increasing. Backward movements indicate the koala is feeling a level of discomfort. The further back and the longer the ears stay back, or the more repetitions of forwards back flicking, the higher the level of discomfort. A koala that is being approached by another larger or seemingly aggressive koala will respond with a lot of ear movement. However, if things escalate, more obvious body language and behaviour cues will become obvious quickly. Often we see changes in ear posture and ear movements as one of the first subtle body language cues that we can observe if we are watching a koala carefully. It is unlikely that koalas use ear language for more than close encounters when they feel forced to acknowledge another koala. Turning the back is an effective body language. This indicates that the koala does not wish to engage in any kind of interaction. This is one of those universal language cues that koalas share with pretty much all other animals. They are, however, unlikely to turn their back on an animal that they are feeling is about to attack them. Turning the back is such a universal body language that I use this when I am out koala spotting. This is a tool I can use to help a koala feel less threatened as I approach the area that they are in. If a koala indicates to me that it is uncomfortable with my presence, I will respond by turning my back on the koala and moving a little further away. I will stay like this for at least a minute, maybe 2 or 3 minutes. Then I will turn slowly and carefully and attempt a peek at the koala to see how they have responded. If the koala still appears to be stressed, I will resume my back-turned posture, possibly even move a little further away. If you have been on a tour of the property with me, you will have observed me using this behaviour with the koalas to astonishing effect. I can take a koala that is quite stressed at the approach of several people, depending on the situation. Within 10 minutes, that koala may begin eating, move into a very relaxed position where we get a very good view of them, or simply resume whatever they were doing, maybe even go to sleep. turning the back, averting the eyes, can have an incredible impact on reducing the stress response in a koala. There was a time when Dewdrop, who was a young female koala that was born here, approached Bullet, who was a young male at the time. She had not long separated from her mum. She approached Bullet, giving that koala yipping sound, and he simply went out on a limb and turned his back on her, clearly demonstrating to her that he did not wish to be approached. He showed no aggression. He diffused the situation with body language. She retreated and went to another part of the tree and ate a meal. Shrinking is used as a body language way to diffuse a situation. When there is any kind of altercation beginning between two koalas, you will often notice, if you look carefully, one koala tries to look bigger and is loud. The other koala will combine curling up, turning the back, lowering the eyes, and maybe using high-pitched sounds to diffuse the situation. They are saying, honestly, I'm just little, I'm no threat, I don't want to fight. Shrinking is a great way to signal submission. On the other hand, looking big has two uses. As I just mentioned, if one koala is in an altercation and has the upper hand, they will usually be trying to look bigger, and if they're a male, they will be bellowing, which adds sound to the size that they're creating. There are times, however, when the one on the other side of the altercation will turn around and use this same strategy in an attempt to diffuse by saying, "Nope, you back off." Females often employ this when a male is attempting to proposition mating to her and she is not receptive. She will usually accompany this with snarls, hisses, and if push comes to shove, with her claws. Body shaking is another way to attempt to signify submission and diffuse a situation. It is a signal of deep fear. The shaking is often actually not in the animal's control, but that doesn't mean that it's not a body language that has been developed for a purpose. The shaking is usually accompanied by shrinking and ear flattening. The shaking releases adrenaline, which actually helps that koala to ready to fight or to flee. Freezing is the opposite of the shaking response, because it is the other part of that adrenaline response of sudden fear. These are what we call autonomic responses and are things that happen automatically as part of our autonomic nervous system. Koalas often freeze even in mid-chewing with leaves hanging out of their mouth. They could remain this way for a couple of seconds, sometimes 30 seconds or even longer. This can happen in the trees, but if it happens on the ground, it usually results in a tragedy. Yawning is another common stress-reducing response in mammals. It can help to reset the nervous system. This reset regulates the emotions. It brings a feeling of being calmer and of being grounded. Many animals use yawning as a body language way of diffusing stressful situations. Mother koalas will use this to signal all is okay to their back young. A young joey is learning so much about the world in such a short time. I have observed young koalas show concern about a situation only to have their mother yawn and put her head down. This signals all is okay. And if the back young then yawns, because we all know yawns are contagious, that reset of the emotions can happen. I have also employed this strategy myself. If a new koala is on the property and seems concerned about me approaching them, combined with my back turning, I will lower my eyes and give an exaggerated yawn before turning my back. Climbing higher up the tree. Well, this is a great avoidance strategy. Because koalas are arboreal, their first response to something of concern is to climb higher. I often see this if I approach on foot with a group of people when doing a tour. The koala wakes, sees us, and calmly climbs further up the tree before taking a second look at us. Of course, it can then often be combined with them turning their back on us. And this takes us to the last point in this particular section on koala communication. All of the strategies I've just described will come into play in different combinations depending on the situation. However, they will also come into play at a different time depending on the flight zone of the individual koala. Think of this flight zone as the koala's personal space. It means something very different to them than it does to us. The first reason for me saying that is that we are social and live on the ground. We often end up in close proximity to others. Koalas are arboreal and they are lone creatures. They will consider the tree they are in as being their personal space, plus a circle around that tree, and the distance is what will vary from koala to koala. The flight zone means the distance from the tree within which a person can approach before the koala begins to move away. If a koala has a flight zone of 15 meters, then it will begin to react with body language and with moving away when you come within 15 meters of them. The closer you then approach, the more the koala's evasion responses will escalate. For example, if you come 14 meters close to the tree for this koala, the koala may raise the head, start moving the ears, and try to hide the head behind a branch or a trunk. Approach a further 2 meters and the koala begins climbing higher. By climbing higher, of course, the koala has now increased the distance between you and it and has therefore moved you out of their flight zone. If you were to begin to climb the tree, you could expect an escalation that will begin to include snarls, growls, high-pitched sounds, and I know that you, like myself, would never do this. Another koala may not begin moving high up the tree until you come maybe 6 or 8 meters away. Some may not even move higher if you approach right up to the tree. There will be some difference in the ground circle of this zone depending on the height of the tree as well. For example, a koala that is 25 meters or more from the ground will give little response to you being 15 meters from the tree. However, if they were only 5 to 8 meters from the ground and you approached 15 meters away, they may begin moving up. One thing we do know is that if you keep approaching when obviously inside their flight zone and they cannot get away, they will be experiencing an adrenaline rush and will have a high heart rate, even if they appear to just freeze or move a little bit up the tree. How do male koalas use their scent gland to communicate? Male koalas rub those scent glands on the base of trees and all through the trunks to leave both the scent and the pheromones, and I'll talk more about those soon. All male koalas do this, not just the alpha. The main difference is that the lower in rank the male is, the less number of trees they will mark and which trees they will mark. For example, a low-ranked male will avoid trees that are favoured and frequently marked by high-ranking males. That chemical world of communication, urine and pheromone marking by males and females. A pheromone is a chemical that is secreted or excreted by an organism. It triggers a social response in members of the same species. The first important thing to note here is that pheromones are chemicals that trigger responses. The second thing, which isn't included in that description I just gave, but is important, is that pheromones don't have an actual scent. So they are a chemical, but they are not necessarily a smell as such. It's probably a very good thing because there are all kinds of pheromones on every single tree in the bush. They are being left by a vast array of animals, including insects, birds, reptiles, and mammals. But only another ant of a particular species can detect the pheromones that have been left by another ant of that species. There could be pheromones from a handful of different ant species on any one leaf, but each ant will only detect and respond to the pheromones from their species. There are a few cases where animals of one species have evolved to detect the pheromones of another species, but they are rare. It's pretty lucky when you think about it. Imagine how incredibly complex, hectic, and overloaded all the animals and even us would be if we could all detect every different pheromone being released out there. Some pheromones are so close chemically, however, that studies have produced some amazing results, such as the alarm pheromones from a particular species of bee is detected by elephants and will warn them off because they detect the alarm. They've actually used that pheromone to prevent elephants from entering particular urban zones. Elephants really don't like being stung on their sensitive trunks, so possibly recognizing that pheromone is an adaptation that they evolved in order to survive better. Different animals use pheromones for triggering different responses. Ants, for example, use them for a variety of reasons. They lay trails to find food. They set off alarms, and the queen can change the hive behaviour with them. Most of what we know about pheromones in any true sense is through studies in rats and mice in the laboratory. Some wild mammal species have been studied, such as those elephants. So again, we don't know exactly how koalas use pheromones. We don't know how many different pheromones koalas produce and respond to, but we do get some important clues. In mammals, most studies have concentrated on the link between pheromones and reproduction. The fact that ants use pheromones to lay food trails tells us that there are many more uses for them, and that koalas living as solitary animals moving through the trees are always communicating, not by leaving a note to say, "I was here and the meal was good," but something not too far from that at all. In reproduction, pheromones are produced by the female during her estrus cycle. This actually lets the males know that the females are receptive. When we have a colony of koalas living together without physically getting together to socialise, it makes sense that the chemical communication is going to be key. Another great question is, how long do the scents last in the environment? Remember that scents are different to pheromones, so we've stepped away from pheromones now. There are similar environmental impacts, however, that will affect how long chemical pheromone trails will last, as well as the trails that actually have the smell to them. Some of the things that are going to impact on their longevity are how often that pheromone or scent is being laid down. If you consider it, layer after layer will last longer. Think about a new koala coming into a colony area and leaving some pheromone trail during just one day as they were moving through. Then think of a regular koala member of the colony using that tree 3 to 5 times every week and layering pheromones every single time. It is quite obvious that the regular koala's pheromones are going to be detected longer because there's this constant fresh layer going on top of one another. Weather is going to have a huge impact because during extreme weather events, the chemicals may break down faster. That includes both extreme wet events, extreme hot and dry events, and of course something as extreme as fire. Competing pheromones is an important point too. A tree that is used by a variety of koalas regularly may have different pheromones overlapping. If the pheromones being layered here have the same purpose, then that would be a similar result to a single koala visiting regularly. If not, they will have competing effects. Most pheromones will last at least for a day or two, maybe weeks with some good layers, and we know that the scent gland smell of male koalas can, in good conditions, last for weeks. Another great question. Are all koala sounds within the human audible range? There have been some fascinating studies done on koalas bellowing and the anatomy of the koala throat. Using recording technology and computer analysis, it has been discovered that male koalas can produce sounds as low as 15 hertz. Human ears don't begin hearing anything until 20 hertz. This means that we don't hear all of the noises the koalas are making out there. However, this doesn't quite mean that they are doing all this communication all the time we can't hear. We do hear them bellowing, but we may not hear all parts of the bellowing. Maybe we miss some of the complexity of the sound. Vocalizing to attract. Now, most of us, I'm sure by now, have heard a recording of a male koala bellowing. If you have not, please do search on my channel for bellowing and you will find quite a few videos that will demonstrate this for you. It's an impressive sound and has two main uses. Marking territory is the prime reason. Males will bellow all year round. However, they certainly ramp this up and bellow a lot more during the breeding season. They have to regularly announce to everyone, male and female alike, "Here I am. I'm the best you will ever find, and this is my territory." This means, as a male hearing that announcement, look out and watch your manners, mate. As a female hearing the announcement, it means, hey there, I'm available and you won't find better than me. Females have been seen literally climbing down trees and heading towards a bellowing male. So there is no doubt there is an attractive connection. However, males have also been observed going to the tree occupied by a female and entering the tree, approaching her. If she screams and says, "Back off, mate," he will retreat lower and bellow as he goes. If we see one male trapped in a tree by another male, the one doing the trapping will often approach, retreat, approach, and begin bellowing. Sometimes we even see females bellowing, usually to try and dissuade a male, but female bellowing in koalas is not fully understood still. So this means that bellowing has even more meanings than the two most common. It can be used to mark territory, announce presence, discourage advances, express dominance, and call the girls. That's quite a range for one impressive sound. Vocalizing to prevent conflict. Koalas can use a fair range of sounds to convey meaning, even if they don't use sounds often. Females will often hiss, yowl, and make some pretty deep-throated growling noises to tell a male that no means no. These responses are actually designed to avoid conflict, but they hold enough warning that conflict is the next step if they are not heeded. They are prepared to back it up with teeth and claws. The most effective warnings used to prevent work when the threat of escalation is behind the warning. That may seem counterintuitive, but in fact, warning without the ability to back that up is an empty warning, and you would be better off by employing high-pitched sounds and shrinking than anything that could cause an escalation if you can't back it up. Vocalizing in fear, pain, and to comfort. When one koala is held in a tree, or if their tree is approached by another, they may begin to emit high-pitched screams. They can sound disconcertingly like a child or a woman. We often feel distress hearing it, but it's a useful survival strategy. High-pitched wailing sounds are designed to disarm and provide some diversion. Males do all they can to vocalize with the deepest sounds they can make. A response in a high sound signifies, "I'm not trying to threaten you, please, let's scale this back." Mother koalas will often reciprocate the yipping sounds of a joey with soft grunting noises. It is not so common for a mother to make sounds when actually holding the joey, as it is to use those sounds to help guide Joey back to her or encourage the joey. If Joey is a bit too rough, is not listening to her, or is trying to drink milk too often during the weaning time, Mum will often give small snarls and growls as she pushes Joey away. Many of these kinds of noises are instantly recognisable to us. However, they are not commonly seen, but when needed, koalas know and understand these sounds. Tooth grinding. A koala in pain is one of the saddest things you can encounter. They don't like their pain to be obvious. This could be a survival strategy. We're not exactly sure why koalas hide their pain more than most mammals we see. Whatever the reason for it, it is common for koalas with awful injuries or infections to show little indication on the outside. If all is very quiet, you may hear them grinding their teeth. A koala that appears well in all other aspects but is grinding their teeth is in terrible pain. Often, a koala that is in pain will look so normal that you would not know it until you might be able to see them begin to move. That is often when you will see them moving very slowly, cautiously, favouring one leg or the other, something like that, that you finally get an indication something is wrong, or when they begin moving, a wound might become apparent that you could not see when they were curled up. The world the koala inhabits is one that is so different to the world that we inhabit as humans. It is no doubt very difficult for us to study. Scientists spend enormous amounts of time studying insects to understand animals that are so different from themselves. One of the mistakes we often make with koalas is to assume that they are more like us than they actually are. For example, being lone animals, koalas, while they are a third mammal, do not rely on touch the way primates do. This is one of the key things that makes koala behaviour so very foreign to human interpretation. It is also one of the things that makes me drawn to be spending as much time observing and recording them as I possibly can. The world of the koala is a fascinating world that I am so honoured to be able to be a small part of living in their backyard the way I do. Again, I want to thank all of my followers on Discord who put forward so many fascinating questions that I had to work hard to answer. It is a delight to have people so interested in deep things about the koala that I am able to do longer documentaries like this because people want to know. You have, however, made it to the end of yet another Koala Gardens video. Those who have been able to join live as this video premiered, it has been a true joy to sit and watch this and discuss more of what's happening and being talked about with you. For those who have joined afterwards and watched all the way through, thank you. I am honoured that you would consider what I'm saying worth watching. If you didn't already smash that like button, please do so. It makes so much difference for the YouTube algorithm. And please take a moment to write in the comments below. Koalas communicate by smell. I communicate by leaving quality comments. Thanks for watching. Loads more great koala video coming your way very soon. And remember, anytime you're looking to buy something for yourself, you want a mug, you want a hat, you want a t-shirt, you want a gift for a friend, there's loads of beautiful koala designs on my Redbubble store just waiting for you to explore.